Ooh, yeah, right on
The
time.
patch came out. Yep, exactly when we start.
As soon as the live stream comes out, so does the patch. It's fucked.
Yes.
Alright, here we go. Alright,
They still haven't
let me just check
said anything.
audio and. Yep, there we go, perfect. Alright, gentlemen, so. Starting with our beautiful, beautiful, beautiful guest here. We're going to be waiting on Harrison. Hopefully he shows up. He's out for a moment, but we're going to have SkarBrand. Could you give us a shout out?
Hello, Miss.
Yeah, we got SkarBrand here, and we have the WarGod, also formerly known as Pigman. Pigman, shout out.
Yeah, me, WarGod /Pigman. What's up?
And then we got me hosting. All right, gentlemen. So for a little bit of intro there, so SkarBrand, could you give me a layout of like your Warhammer sort of career so far?
A Warhammer here.
Yeah, career.
Uh, I would say that I'm a sort of a veteran. I started playing Warhammer 7 years ago when Warhammer 1 was, or when Warhammer 1 came out, and I was like 12 years old at that time. So I was like, holy moly, this game looks so beautiful. I mean, there's so many fantasy stuff that looks so cool. It looks like Lord of the Rings. I should try it. Well then, I was playing it most of my time. And then whenever Warhammer 2 released, I started playing that. I was also addicted to that game. And then when Warhammer 3 released, which actually was on my birthday, I was like, holy shit, okay, I need to do this. And that's sort of it.
So
Warhammer 1, Warhammer 2, I was mostly focused on the campaigns. Warhammer 3, I was, from the beginning, I was mostly focused on the campaigns. But when the campaigns were like super trash and boring because of the Realms of Chaos that was only available, I was sort of getting into the multiplayer scene. And that's where I started my
so
PvP
you're a
career.
veteran of that. So in terms of competitiveness, like you have a lot of tournaments behind you. Do you play a lot of tournaments? I know you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
okay. I do play tournaments depending on who's hosting them. For example, Tequila, I don't really like his tournament kind of style because it really just gets me bored. And then it's mostly SFTs, which means that you're just gambling on that you hope that you will get better matchups. Because then, if I'm playing Corn and I'll get, for example, Lizardman against me, I feel like, okay, this matchup is cooked. What am I supposed to do? Why
Gotcha.
am I even playing this matchup? That's how I feel like, about it.
And you used to be
But yeah,
part. Oh, you used to be part of RTK. Now you moved on to XMT. Is that how?
yes, that's correct.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So
RTK is mostly a Warhammer focused clan that, like I've said some days, no, well, some time ago, RTK is really heavily focused on Warhammer. The community is also like, well, I didn't enjoy talking to them that much.
we'll
Whenever
get
I
into that.
joined,
Hold on. Let's just stay focused on on just you in general.
shit.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. So yeah, RTK over to a new clan. That's all I want to get out of that one real quick. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt, but and
okay,
then so
sorry.
we can move on now to Pigman slash WarGod here, and basically just the same questions over from SkarBrand. So give me a layout of your career in Warhammer.
Yeah, so my Warhammer experience was really, really weird. So when Warhammer 2 was like already released, I bought Warhammer 1 and I played it for like 300 hours and then I dropped it till Warden and the Punch came out. Then I picked up Warhammer again, but I solely played campaign. And I played campaign for like probably like 3+ years of just campaign, not touching a lick of multiplayer. And then around like a year and a bit ago, probably going on 2 years now, if I had to guess, I actually picked up multiplayer. And then that's when I really was like, okay, this is actually cool, better than campaign. Then I switched over from liking campaign to multiplayer, and now I mainly play multiplayer. And then just recently, I decided to start my channel because I was like, I'm gonna play this much Warhammer, and I'm gonna be this good at Warhammer. I should just cast it, make content on it. Let's see where it goes.
And yes, anyone interested in checking out the WarGod YouTube channel, there's a link in the description. Okay. And what is your experience with the competitive scene in general? Accomplishments, anything like that?
Well, as soon as I started actually playing multiplayer, it was always on competitive. I played like any major tournament. I also don't do like the minor tournaments, like the tequila tournaments. They're just like a little long for me. They're like best of threes, and that's a little bit too much for me. I've won like Turn Faction Wars. I've won Human Boy, Vermin League Ladders. I've won a lot of tournaments. I couldn't even list them all. And I won a couple of matches too, which is pretty nice. So it's a nice, fun community. I like that it's small because it honestly means that I'm able to win more tournaments. So I don't know, but it's fun. I like it.
And back to you, SkarBrand, on that note too. What would be your accomplishments? Also, just a preference. I believe you both are very heavily more into the land battle slash conquest scene. Is that correct? We'll start with SkarBrand.
With me, sort of. I recently just started playing most of the time Domination because people, well, if you're playing on Vermin League, most of the people that are playing on land battles and such are players that I don't really like because their game styles and the way that they play is like, well, it's not fun. So I started playing Domination, and I'm enjoying it so far. Domination is fine.
It's funny too because I do know some of these people. I'm like, oh, I don't want to say anything about them, so I'm not gonna. Okay, okay. Not personally, but I have interacted with them. Okay, what about you, WarGod?
I'm completely just land battles. I'll maybe crack on some Dom every now and then, but I'm pretty much exclusively just land battles.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're just a Hall of Famer in the land battles, from what I
Yeah,
understand
Hall of
too.
Famer land battler, never really crossing into Dom. It just doesn't speak to me like land battles does. If I kill my opponent's lord, I want him to stay dead.
And we'll get back onto that because that's always one that's interests me in the land battle slash dom scene because it's two completely different games, even though it's the same game.
True.
Actually, that would actually be a nice little segue too. So, moving on to the competitive scene, how is the competitive scene in, I guess, land battle? Since this is your guys' domain, mine's is more dom. Hold on, give me 1 second.
How should I say that?
So yeah, how's the competitive scene?
Okay,
Well,
well, I'll start off. Well, basically, right now it's kind of dead because there hasn't been a patch or anything recently, so it's actually been pretty sad for the competitive scene. But when it was alive, it was pretty cool. There's no one that's like dominantly the best. The best kind of like there's like a top like 10 list, and kind of everybody rotates around on who the best player is. And then below that, you have a bunch of other good players that are also kind of a similar skill level. It never feels like you're ever in a situation where you can't win, at least if you're in the higher levels. And but recently things have been really slow just because CA hasn't released any patches and Warhammer is overall more niche, at least in the multiplayer side. So it's been a little slow.
And what is your experience with that as well? Yeah, sorry about the sound of the background, guys. That's my dog. He's running around right now. He's getting excited. So whenever they drop off mail, he just runs out the door. So besides that, Scarbrand, what's your experience with the competitive scene in general?
with my computer, same. In terms of land battles and conquest, I feel the same as Bigman does. It's sort of dead. Not that many players are playing unless it's one same dude that, like I said, I don't like to play against that one dude because he's playing, well, not fun builds and not funny factions. In terms of domination, I feel like domination is more alive since whenever I look into Total Taverns, I see like multiple tournaments nearly every day. So I'm like, okay, this scene is more active. I could probably just get there to have some fun since like land battles is that. That's kind of how I feel about it.
All right then. Um, okay, so that pretty much sums up your guys. In terms of mine, though, from Dom to land battle, it seems to be there's this huge. When it comes to like builds and everything and what's different in terms of what's competitive there from here, is there a lot of big difference or units that are useless there, useless also, more useful or more useless from one game mode to another? You know what I mean? So would you bring in core source warriors? Let's take Lizardman source warriors as an example. They're good all around, but something like a solar engine, would you bring it in land battle? Would you also bring it in dom? Because you see certain units in certain places. So just trying to feel that out. How do you guys feel about something like that?
Yeah, there are some units that are filling up the rule. Especially I feel like there are units that do way better on domination than Lambos. For example, I feel like that units or single entity spam factions such as Nurgle and Lizardman do way better on domination than on land battles. Since on land battles you can counter it quite easily, but in domination you can bring that counter, but your counter can get countered by another thing because you can bring so many units, and with how much units you can bring, that means that most of yours will just probably get countered. Which is what I also hate about domination, that you can do SC blobs that will just annihilate most of the stuff unless you don't have the right tools to deal with it.
Okay. And I think World Ender has brought up a good question there. What are some of the more toxic land battle slash conquest stuff you guys have seen, or maybe you've done or had to deal with?
Oh.
Wait, give me 1 second, Scarborough, before we answer that. I'm gonna try to get Harrison in here.
Mhm.
Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. Try to get him in here. No, he's in here. I don't know why he can't join.
Weird.
Hold on. Let me message him. Okay. So yeah, back to that question. Yes, please continue. So some of the toxic stuff you dealt with.
Oh yeah. There was one specific map on Conquest game mode, especially, where there is a mountain like very close to the Conquest point, and that means you can easily corner camp on a Conquest map. And that map or Conquest, like overall the game mode, is supposed to stop corner camping.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And then what happened was, okay, I got corner camped on a game mode that is supposed to not allow you to corner camp because you will get punished because then you need to go on the objective, right? And that's kind of what happened. There is a certain map that has a hill very close to the objective, which means if he's gonna like camp on the hill, that he'll have like his backline fully surrounded by some kind of mountains and such. So then you cannot flank truly.
So this
And
isn't.
that's what I hate about it.
So this isn't tied to just this is tied to like some specific factions, I assume. Like it.
Mostly factions that have artillery pieces.
Okay, okay, that's fair.
Factions that do it well are dwarves,
Dwarves, yeah.
Kuei, and probably Empire as well.
Fair enough. All right. So we'll get back to that in a second. Let me introduce Harrison right here. Harrison, you there? Nope, he died. Harrison's dead, guys. Sorry.
Dang.
He died with a dead microphone. Whatever.
Harrison, you joined in and you never said a word, you bastard. All right. Okay. Harrison, you there?
Sorry, my Discord's just like shit in the bed. What's up?
Oh man, sounds like you ate your mic. Oh man.
I'm on my AirPods, sorry.
Oh no, that's all good. Okay, so we'll have you here. So Harrison, just introduce yourself real quick. Give me a layout of your like Warhammer history a little bit and your competitiveness scene.
Okay. Well, I'm Harrison. I joined RTK about like last summer, I think, beginning of last summer. Been in the clan ever since. Not super active there, but I've been playing Warhammer for a couple years now. I started in Warhammer 2, just playing campaign. Was a campaign guy for a couple years. Moved over, or I actually played land battles a fair bit in Warhammer 2, just with my friends. No like tournaments or anything, multiplayer wise. Um, and a few just head-to-head campaigns and stuff like that. That's what started introducing me to multiplayer. And then I think about 2 summers ago, I played my first domination tournament, and I got crushed, but I had a lot of fun. And ever since then, I've just been participating a little bit more and more. Currently, I'm kind of taking a little break. Game's gotten a little stale to me, but I still love it. I just need a little break. Hopefully, this new patch will fix that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else you would want me to add there?
And then, in terms of how your tournaments have been going, you've won a couple tournaments. Dom tournaments specifically. You're more of a Dom player.
Oh yeah, 100%. I haven't played Land Battle in probably a couple years, honestly. But yeah, so far this I almost said this semester, this this patch or this wipe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I've won one tournament and I've been to two other finals where I've lost. Um,
but you ended up in you ended up in finals, semifinals. Yeah.
yeah, and recently I just played in the Total Tavern finals for last season, and then also the faction war I played Nurgle.
Yup, yup. Big
Yep.
Nurgle man. Nurgle man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Nurgle, playing a lot of Lizardmen, Dark Elves, Vampire counts as well. Those are probably my four most played factions.
So okay, that's actually a good point. So those are your mains. War Guide, you haven't said anything in a minute. What would be your mains?
Uh, well, my favorite faction thematically is Grand Cathay, but if I had to pick a main, it would really just be what's meta at the time, because I play pretty much any faction, so I guess that would be Ogres right now.
Just ogres in general. Yeah. Okay.
Well, because they're the best faction right now, but I can play Ogres, DOC. Like, they're gonna be on my picks if you leave them open to me.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't really have a main, I would say. I don't gravitate towards any particular faction.
Okay.
Besides, like I said, I like Grand Cathay thematically, and if Grand Cathay was good, then they would be my main. But they're definitely not right now.
Fair enough. Okay. Skarbrand, I think your name says it all. Anything else for your mains?
So far I was starting to enjoy playing Converters of Chaos and Norska, but that's kind of it.
Fair enough. Okay. All right then. So moving on to there. So we did the land battle. I don't think we got to your point, War God, with the um toxic scene so far. How do you see the toxicness going on in the community? Some of that stuff.
Was that? I
Builds.
think that was SkarBrand who said that, not me. But I definitely agree to some extent. There's just certain players that are very much. I won't say specifically, but
Yes.
we at Scar
Yes.
would definitely know. Well,
Just
we
in
know the
general. Please
group.
don't say
But
any names.
basically, what they do is they always try the most try hard, sweaty possible. They always borderline rule break. And then when they borderline rule break, they're always like, what? How could I? It wasn't me. I wasn't the one who rule broke. And just generally like a pain to play against them. And it's like you can beat them most of the time, but it's just not even worth it because it's such like a pain to do.
Yeah, because normally like land battle and conquest games are supposed to be not supposed to be, but usually like these 8 to 10 minute games on average, from what I've seen. Sometimes they can go beyond that, but when you have these tryhards trying these toxic builds, they can really stretch the game out, from what I understand.
Me personally, though, I don't mind as much, to be honest. I actually don't care. The only characters I really care about are people who take too long when they pick. Like, there's certain people that have, like, either really bad connection or just take forever on their picks. Those are the only people who I'll personally actively avoid. Everybody else I'll play. So I
Okay,
just don't want to be waiting.
fair enough. What about you, Harrison?
Sorry, were you asking like toxic players?
Toxic builds, toxic scene in general, that kind of experience you've
Oh,
had.
um, well, recently,
And please
I
don't
guess I
name any
could
names.
no, don't name any names. Well, a big streamer has come back to the domination scene, and he's kind of made the like SE triple SE value trade play style.
I know
I
exactly who
know
you're
you.
talking about
Yeah,
I
too.
think
I know everybody
everybody
knows what
knows
I'm
who that
talking
is.
about.
I think you'd have to just not
Um,
know Warhammer if you didn't know who that was.
yeah,
I
he
guess
made
we'll
them
leave it unnamed, but
super popular to play, and everybody's kind of trying it out again. And it's just kind of, let's say it's toxic. It's just not very fun to play against. And like it, you can make it work. It's not super easy to make it work. But yeah, that's not very fun. And then yeah, also people who take, eons to make their builds. That's not very fun. And yeah, just stuff like that. That's kind of why I'm taking a break right now. Is just you run into a lot of builds like that, and it's just not very entertaining or engaging to play against.
So from what I understand, so in the Dom scene, there are certain players who are known to do the build up. Like in a game, you don't want to sit there for like 3 to 5 minutes waiting for the other guy to build up their answers because they can't deal with your stuff that you brought on your initial build. That's something also in Land Battle and Conquest you guys try to like deal with, something like a build up or like these annoying builds. Um,
Um, sort of. Sometimes it depends who the player actually is.
because it sounds like to me from the Dom and the Land Battle Conquest scene is the builds that seem to be very annoying are usually these, double or triple SCs or like these character builds. Does that seem to be a very similar thing going on there as well?
Yeah, there are factions that are fully capable of it, such as Lizardmen that are super good at doing that.
I think the
Also,
most
like,
problematic. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah, so sorry.
I think.
The most problematic in that SE blob is the Shredder blob. Shredder blob feels like the strongest blob in the game, if we are not talking about Nurgle. But then Nurgle has one weakness. If specifically you play certain factions, for example, Korn has a great advantage into Nurgle, since Karenag has a silence, and silence actually works quite well against healing blobs. But when it's a Shredder blob, it doesn't work, only because that the Shredder can deal with anything, and he's like super duper fast, so he can catch you
Okay,
whenever you
hold on,
blob.
Scarbrand. For those who don't know, the Shredder Blob is obviously the Shredder Illustria. What else are we including in this blob?
Probably
Uh,
Mazdon's lack.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Soul
Okay,
and
wait.
Solar Engine for vigor.
Yeah,
So you keep the
the triple
shredder.
combo is Aslan, most typically Mazdamundi on Slack or on foot, and the Solar Engine. That's really the triple wombo combo.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
I
Yep.
think. I
And
think the
then you
most
like
problematic.
surround it. Yep, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's just like SE blobs with healing is just so problematic because you can. It looks like you're getting a lot of value, but they're still alive and kicking. So it's just fake value. And then they just heel cap themselves, and it's just not fun to play against. It's just like you're chipping, like you're just chipping away at something, and it's just like I don't know how to describe it. It just keeps coming back, and it just like factions who can't heal their SCs, it's a lot more playable because you can actually get them down, to like 10% health, and it's meaningful. But with healing, it just becomes a bit much.
Yeah, I've definitely been on that end from actually all of you guys. Because you guys are like, hey, you want to see something cool, and then you just dunk on me. I was like, oh, that was cool. I don't ever want to play against that again. Um, but no, that is something that is very common, but also, and I'm not nagging on you guys on that. It's just like very interesting because I think I totally agree with that. Because domination, that is a problem. Yeah, also a problem there in land battles. And I don't know if it's. I think it's equally just a problem on both because probably more so I would say in land battles because once you lose the one thing that could deal with it, it's pretty much game over, right? Whereas domination, you can bring back something that maybe can deal with it, but it's probably too late anyways.
Yeah, yeah, and in domination, you can bring answers, in reserve. Whereas in land battle, if you don't have it even on the field, you're basically just cooked.
But that's the problem with land battles. Just like okay, they see you can answer it, so they're gonna sit there and try to build up, and so that you can answer it, and then they'll overwhelm you. And you have to kind of like on the opposite end, you have to come forth and deal with that, but you're gonna be caught out of position by the time that happens. Hopefully, well, hopefully not. That's my experience with it. So yeah, that's more of the annoying build. So I think we all agree it's just SCs with healing for the most part for certain factions, and those factions would be obviously Lizardmen. I think we can agree maybe Tomb Kings in there with the triple Sphinx, maybe double Sphinx. My bad.
Yeah, double Sphinx has been banned recently in a lot of tournaments because of that reason.
I can't. I don't remember any
Ogres
other.
with the meat feast that got nerfed, so maybe that'll bring that into check a little bit. But that's one of them.
Yeah, I remember SkarBrand sending me a replay of his double, if not triple. I think it was double It was against Skaven. He brought double, not Thunder Tusk. What's the other one?
No,
Stonehorns.
triple Stonehorn.
Yes,
It
triple
was triple.
Stonehorns, and it was just healing after healing. And it was just slaughter. Ugh. And then I remember the legendary game Pigman had against Ogres, where he brought just nothing but Plague Bearers and Blues, and then the Changebringers and 3 or 4 big monsters and Doc. And that became fun and a little legendary there. So, yeah, just healing with the Herald on those big giant demons, or greater demons, and yeah, you just can't deal with them. That was rough. So, yeah, there's a lot of history with that. You lose a lot of agency, so you can't do it as Dom as much, depending on the faction. Like I said, Tomb Kings, because they're got dirt cheap skeletons. So yeah.
Yeah, Kislev used to be able to do that pretty well too, but they got their healing nerfed a bit, and some other units as well.
Yes. Here's a good question then for all of you. What factions or would you like to see? Obviously, we just had the 6.1 update. So actually, let's go into that before we do that. So 6.1 update, what are you guys thinking so far with that? We were talking about that before we started as well. We can start with whoever wants to jump in.
It's overall a pretty mid patch, but a good mid patch, if that makes sense. Nothing majorly changed, but all the changes that were made were good. That's basically like the quickest TLDR I could give with the patch.
Okay.
And obviously, I haven't actually tested Grenaders or Noblar Slingers yet, but I'm almost certain they're going to be really strong.
Yeah,
am
I agree. It's a
super-
bit underwhelming just with like the scope of it. There's not much that changed, I feel like, but the changes that were made were mostly meaningful, I think.
SkarBrand?
I'm super pissed about this patch. They have told me that the Knights of the Brazen Throne will get 1800 mass. They still have 1500 mass. What is this?
Well, don't they get extra mass on charge, or you just want enough mass so they can escape?
No, they said in the patch notes that Skull Crushers RR will get increased mass from 1500 to 1800, without counting in the Murderous Charge bonus. And they still have 1500 instead of 1800.
Now, is that just something that that unit needs, or are you just nitpicking?
I would love it to have more mass, because that would mean that the brutal charges that it always does will be more brutal, since there will be less units that will stop its charge.
Okay, I could see that, especially with how expensive that unit is.
Yeah.
Necessary.
And then, and another thing I would like to talk about, the RR Skullcan got so heavily nerfed that I feel like it's you probably will see it like once, twice.
Did they just nerf its range? That's it. Just range, right? And a little bit of damage.
They also nerfed its calibration, so when you nerf its calibration, it's gonna miss a lot.
Ah, okay.
Because from video that I've seen from Human Boy and such, it always hits the ground. Well, not all its shots, but like 2 or 1.
Good.
Good.
Good,
I mean,
dude.
in that
It
case,
was so broken.
I understand, but I would say it was only broken because it had so much range. And then
So-
I would still say that there were units that were more broken and
Well-
people were talking about it, but not so heavily as about the Auroras.
Well, let's go into this real quick, because we were talking about this before we started. You guys were saying that the ROR Skull Cannon finally got figured out, but then got nerfed, so it doesn't make sense for it. From what I understand, it doesn't make sense to nerf it now that everyone's figured it out. Is that something that you guys still stand by, or is that something that needs to be,
I mean, in Dom,
I would have
wouldn't say it's
still
been
nerfed
figured
it.
out.
I would just nerfed it like a very little bit. Very minor nerf.
What do you mean,
but I
just
think
by a
overall
little
it was
bit?
fun. If I was to nerf it myself, what I would do is I'd probably just lower its I would lower its range like they did. I would just do less. I would do the same
Yes.
thing.
Okay,
If I
hold
can
on.
say-
Harrison, you were saying something?
Over in the Dom scene, I wouldn't say they really had figured it out. They just perma-banned it from every tournament, basically. That's how we dealt with it over there.
Yeah, that's
sense.
pretty much, yeah. I can agree with that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
If I can talk about this,
Yeah.
I had certain ideas how to nerf it and still keep it balanced. One of the ideas was reduce its number of missiles shot per volley, which instead of shooting 5 shots, it would shoot either 4 or 3, which I feel like would still make it like strong, but not at the level of strong that it would be unbalanced, if you get me. Or then another idea was decreasing its range from 280, if I think that was the range. Yeah, I think it was 280 to 200. 160 is so low that for it to get its value, you will have to micro it so much that you will forget about your entire army.
You said, yeah, you were correct. It was 280 down to 160. I think 160 is pretty good. You're looking at Glade Guard range. I mean, that's pretty
I
decent.
think the most problematic part about that unit is that it's basically a I don't know, like a chariot with magic missile attack, and its ammo is rechargeable. The fact that the missiles track is just like absurdly broken. So I think it's good they changed the calibration distance, but I think they could have easily changed it just by having it shoot like a regular skull cannon, but just having multiple of those shots. It would do a ton of damage, but it wouldn't be extremely accurate like it was before, and they wouldn't
Oh
have had to
yeah.
change the calibration.
Either it would shoot like a shotgun, but then I don't know how would that
Yeah,
look like.
but it would have those like vortex,
Oh, just not have the
like
vortex?
fireballs.
Yeah. Kind of like what
Well, I
happened.
mean,
yeah,
it would shoot like a regular skull cannon, like those vortexes or whatever they are, instead of the magic missile type shot. I think that's just busted.
Yeah,
yep.
with from my experience seeing and playing with and against it, it's just, especially I remember 2 games where I think Anoishi brought it against Outer Region, and then I forget who the last player was, and he just deleted everything with that thing. There was just no stopping it. Unless you have artillery specifically for it, and that's not even guaranteed depending on the map, you just couldn't deal with it. It would destroy any infantry unit. And then even deal pretty good into monstrous infantry, which is nuts.
Yeah, and it also charges Corn's army abilities like crazy. Because people will
Yes.
bring, they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to bring elite units because the skull cannon will just destroy them." So let's say you're like Lizardman and you bring Skinks. Well, that's like 160 models or something like that. That Corn can just farm you for army abilities, and they just keep getting it over and over. Skull of Corn, or
Yeah,
sorry,
just
Sword of Corn, and all that.
yeah, just 2 shots from that. If they land into 2 skinks, you're pretty much maxed out the sort of corn already. If you get a good shot on both units. Oh, okay. I think we're a bit of agreement. We got some dis on there. Did we finish up everything there on the update so far? I don't think so.
I mean, there was a big like there's a lot of stuff, but a lot of it was so minor. And nothing immediately comes to mind unless you
It
were to
felt
like
like,
tell me.
Yep.
yeah, this was like a big mass like update where
Yeah,
they're just adjusting the mass of tons of units, which is like, that's okay, but it's just not like a not super deep change that'll, affect the
yeah.
meta too
Most of the
much.
patch, I was just there like, oh, this is cool, and then I move on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
that Wrathmongers, their change feels irrelevant since I
Yeah,
feel like they will
that
still
was
be
so
strong as
minor.
they are. I think they will still be strong as they were because only of the immunity to flanking. Only because of
yeah.
that.
And they're
Okay.
gonna do even more damage to SCs because they have less splash. So
Oh, yeah.
that's fun. I think I'd be happy if in 2 months or something short like that they did another patch. I would not be happy if it was another, 5, 6 months before they patched again because this is not enough for a balance change.
No, no. After not even looking at the notes and after your guys' reaction, I probably would agree too. It just seems too small.
Yeah, because I know Catholic alcoholic like puts a ton of effort into making. He makes these documents where he like suggests. Well, he tests it himself and he surveys people and he suggests, some changes that would actually like balance the game very well. And then they take like 20, 30% of that document and actually implement. I wouldn't even say 20, maybe like 15% and implement them. Um, I just don't understand why it's so hard to change numbers around and
Well, it's
whatnot.
more than just numbers. You also got to do. I don't know. I don't know. That's another
Yeah, I
topic
mean,
for. That's another topic though.
a, yeah, I mean, a lot of it could be like a lot of balancing could be just changing numbers, but yeah, some of it you actually have to like, go in depth in the code.
And yeah, Teamer, that's a good point. A lot of it was also campaign patch than anything else, really. I mean, to be fair, Warhammer is still a single player campaign game, and its multiplayer is second. I mean, we knew that as soon as it initially launched on 3, that when we didn't get dedicated servers or anything like that, yeah, we were kind of just sitting here.
Well, remember that patch we had over the summer that was just like that massive multiplayer patch?
Yes,
Something
yes.
like that. Something like that would be awesome to have again.
Okay. I would definitely agree. It would be nice to get a shake up because I've noticed throughout other channels that the viewer count for the Warhammer community isn't exactly booming right now like it was even a year ago,
True.
honestly. And I think, I don't know, do you guys agree with that? Maybe?
Oh, I 100% agree. I'm like,
I
I feel
agree.
like I've just such like a just the actual size of people that could potentially even watch your videos is like low right now.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the big names I could do is like Turin, even, what's his, the single player one, Total War. He's
Oh,
also
Legend of Total War.
Legend of
Yeah,
Total
yeah.
War. There we go. Even his numbers are kind of low. He even kind of like dipped into a different game for a bit. Uh, um, so yeah, it's just insane how low the numbers
I
can be.
think just with how rapidly most games are moving, like some games will get monthly patches, balance changes, uh, monthly new content, and then there's, Warhammer, the game I love so much, getting a, balance change or new content every 4 to 6 months. It just gets kind of stale, and people, want to move on to new stuff, and uh, um, just like the consumerism of it is just affecting Warhammer, I think.
Yeah, it's just like a okay, I figured this game out. Let me go to something else now. And not only that, there's also the fact that, and I've talked about this many times, the learning curve of this game is so vast. It's like people just cash out so quick before they even get to like past like a novice level, if anything. Because they just see the vast ocean of skill and microing and list building, and they're like, yeah, this might not be for me. And then you have to buy all the other faction stuff. So yeah, it can feel
Yeah, I
daunting.
mean, if you think about it, if you start Warhammer from scratch, and you want everything in the game, it's like I think $200 plus game basically.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big investment, which is yeah. Whereas you go to something like Overwatch, I guess that's where SkarBrand. I guess everyone here has a bit of experience with that. You just buy a game and then you can just get into it, small learning curve, and you can just have fun for God knows how long. All right. I know we're getting a bit off topic there, so let's move to something more back on Warhammer related. So, guys, I think we touched a bit of this with you guys earlier. So, Harrison, we can get you there. So, you have any favorite factions, lore, characters, maybe some builds, whether it's campaign or multiplayer?
Well, favorite faction is definitely Nurgle, but I've been warming up a lot to Lizardmen. Uh, build wise, Nurgle doesn't have too many options. Whereas the Lizardmen can be a lot more diverse. You can go, very skirmish heavy, very shooting heavy, very melee heavy. Whereas Nurgle, you probably just have to either go wide or invest a lot into SEs and try to go for a value trading type play style. Um, favorite builds though, I don't know if I can throw Kugath in there. It's always fun, in like a melee grind and just uh destroy them that way with against like maybe like vampire counts or it used to be good against Corn, but that matchup is really difficult nowadays. Um, what was the second half of the question again?
I think you pretty much got most of it. Like favorite
Okay.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah, favorite characters, Kugath. It's always fun when you can get Nakai in there. I like Manfred a lot because I think I actually like read some of the end times, and I find the counts pretty interesting, and just their story and how they what they were like doing in the end times. I don't know. I like them. I think they're cool.
SkarBrand?
Oh yes. Uh, favorite faction, of course, Corn. As far the character goes, it's yeah. If we are talking about fantasy, which I think we are, it's Skarbrand and Skulltaker. I like only Skarbrand because, like I've said, I'm Skarbrand myself, so that means I will like Skarbrand. I'm not really liking his lore. I'm just liking that how he actually acts. He's that dude that goes around, destroys stuff, rampages, and boom shakalaka, and does stuff like that. That's what I like. Why I like Skulltaker though is like he brings you one of these cool duels when it's like, but I have the aura to kill you because I have higher level. I'm the stronger one. I'm the supreme duelist. I am Skulltaker. That's also why I like Skulltaker. Just the aura farmer that just goes around and climbs skulls and kills your favorite Lord Champion when he wants to. As
Oh, go ahead.
uh, as about lore, I'm not really into lore, so I don't know much. Only thing that I kind of like though is the transformation of Wrathmongers. That's the only thing that I like. Um, Wrathmongers are sort of inspiring champions that got corrupted by demon souls. For them to become the Wrathmongers, they have to beat the demon soul inside them. And once they beat the soul, or the demonic soul inside them, they will become the ultimate force of Korn's will.
All right, that's fair.
As for my build goes, I don't have
Oh.
like a favorite build. I just overall like go around and figure out like what I should do and what I like to do. But always I love to do a build that has Knights of the Brazen Throne in it.
I mean, I think we all got that when you start whining about it. You were just like, I didn't give him enough. All right. WarGod.
What's the question? Favorite faction?
Favorite
Or character?
the lore, characters, any your like favorite builds you like to do, whether it's campaign or multiplayer.
Well, if anybody knows me, they're gonna know that Miao Ying is my favorite character, lore-wise.
I'm not gonna
Miao
ask you
Ying is
why.
just Miao Ying is the perfect character, and I'll leave it at that. Gameplay-wise, I don't really have one. Like I said, I'm kind of a generalist. Campaign. Also, my favorite campaign is Miao Ying's campaign. That's a great campaign. It's really amazing.
Oh,
Um, I don't know. It's just Miao Ying. Unit, not really a particular unit I like either.
okay, fair enough. All right, I think we hit a lot of our points too, just generally. So I think we'll go to
Can I,
this one. What?
can I say one more thing about the patch?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. It was just kind of shocking that they didn't reel Slanesh in more. Like they said they're probably going to change secret models pretty soon to kind of reel them in, but all they did was give them 100 gold increase cost. And they gave them their chariots more armor, so they basically just buffed Slanesh. Like 100 gold isn't going to do anything for the seekers. They're still going to upgrade like crazy. I think to make them fair, you'd have to make them like 1200 plus, something like that. And then same with the ogres, like they nerfed the healing on Meat Feast, and then the damage on the Thunder Tusk. But I still think ogres are just going to be absurdly strong with those changes. I guess we'll have to see how the pigbacks do. But yeah, it was just kind of shocking to see them not do much about Slanesh really when they're with how problematic they are.
Yeah, it seems like there's yeah, not too much. After what you guys said, yeah. Oh, ogres and Slanesh are still eating good, unfortunately. But as Tiber pointed out, they do have a DLC coming up, so that kind of makes me think they got their hands a bit. Maybe they have their hands tied if they have like another game coming up right now under the radar that we're not aware of, and just are short on hands and are just trying to throw things in there. That's 11% of their best unit. That's meaningful. I don't know, man. Sometimes you actually have 100 left over in reserves for Dom, so or 100, maybe 200 left over in Dom, depending on your build. So it's not like it really. Sometimes it doesn't really do much. And Seekers, man, I just played a game. Some of you guys might have seen it yesterday, where I was playing against Slanesh. Even in the hands of a new player, Slanesh can absolutely just wreck shit. It is.
Well, I mean, they have
Go ahead.
army ability with a net. They have an
Yes.
army ability with a rampage. They have Pavane, which is a rampage. They have, seductive glory, which is a rampage. So you can basically rampage or net a lord for like a minute plus if you use all of the like. Yeah, it's a huge investment, but that can easily win you the game.
Well,
Or like an expensive unit, you can do the
I
same
don't
thing.
think you're doing it enough justice, honestly, because yes, it is that bad, but you're also getting silenced. You also have the
Yeah,
flanking, and the fact that their lords, especially they bring like surprisingly, the keeper's secrets and the Kai are actually looking pretty nasty too. If you combine all
yeah,
that, they'll snipe a lord pretty good.
yeah, and even like one net plus a seeker, and you get a surround. That's all you need to delete something right now.
Yeah,
It's pretty lame.
yeah, and also fiends are still 1300. People were bringing fiends before they realized seekers were busted. So seekers
Yeah,
going up to
fiends
1100 isn't really that big of a deal because they just replace fiends anyways.
and the freaking Hellstriders are good too.
Yeah,
Excuse me, the anti-large Hellstriders are, 675 or something. They're super cheap, and they're an amazing unit.
absolutely. You guys have Skarbrand, WarGod, anything to add to that?
That's kind of a. The Seekers are still good in land battles, but definitely not to the degree that they're good in domination. Honestly, probably if domination gets all the things they want, they'll probably over nerf for land battles. But I guess that just is what it is,
What do you mean by
because
that?
they're just not as much of a problem in land battles, Seekers and them, because you can't just resummon a Seeker once it dies. So if you lose
Yep.
that, you're cooked, right? If you lose a bunch of Seekers in the early game, you lose the battle. Whereas in Dom, let's say I lose a bunch of Seekers, I resummon them, and Seekers are like a glass cannon unit. They're meant to be like you're taking a risk, but in Dom you take less of a risk because you just resummon it if they die. So it's really not as big of a deal in land battles, but they still are overtuned in land battles.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point. That's a good
I
point.
agree with that statement.
But I think they're so I would be fine with them being nerfed to a point that's probably an over nerf because am aware of how like Jurassically super OP they are in domination.
Okay. Skarbrand?
Yep, I feel the same way. In Lambos, you can deal with them by using spells. Especially Fate of Buna like one-shots them, and then if you one-shot one of these Seeker that is 1000 value, that means like, oh, here you go. I gave you 1000 gold of my own value. Now I cannot get it back. I hope you
Yes.
enjoy it. That's
Oh,
how it is in Lambos.
okay. Okay, I think we hit that one on the head there. Man, actually, that felt really fast. I didn't think it'd be almost an hour already. Shit. Okay, so we'll go to this next point unless anyone else has anything to say. No?
No.
Okay. So, do you guys, please, advice for new players trying to get into multiplayer, whether that's things like tactics, list building, what to practice, what to look for, who to play against, maybe some places to try out. Yeah, anything.
I tend to have pretty controversial takes here, so I will let someone else get this.
Ooh,
Okay,
okay.
I'll start. As for the newcomers, new players, it's always best to find a faction that you like. Because then, if you have a faction that you really enjoy and like, with the style that it plays and how it looks like, you may become to main that faction because you like these visuals, you like the gameplay, like I said, and that's the best way how to learn. You have to play your own favorite faction, and from there you will understand. Like, okay, I remember that Bloodletters are like super good in melee combat. So in this particular case, I'm gonna only take them just to deal with their infantry. That's kind of. Also, it's also the best that you find a clan for yourself because clan helps you out quite a lot, especially if you're like alone.
Okay. But
Yeah,
it's not a necessary thing to be in a clan, but it's helpful though.
It's very helpful to be in a clan.
Okay.
I've learned most of the tactics and how to play when I was in RTK.
Okay.
I agree with Skarbrand. I think joining a clan is super important. You can obviously get builds in there. You can get, share your replays and get feedback on them. But mostly for, tactics, and then looking at builds against, which factions, like faction matchups. I think, you definitely want to start out with one faction, try to master them the best you can. And it's kind of the default answer, but just get out there and play. You're gonna lose a lot in the beginning, but you want to be joining a lot of new player tournaments, playing on ladder, just getting a lot of games in and kind of getting, your feet wet for the game, and just getting that experience under your belt. Um, so yeah, join a clan. Oh, and get the debug cam on. I think that's pretty important. You might be playing the game for the visuals, but if you're playing multiplayer, that shouldn't really matter. You should be playing to win, and you have a huge advantage if you're using the debug cam.
And the debug can, just for everyone to know, I believe that is a mod. Correct?
You actually just go in the game settings, and you can just look up a quick video on YouTube how to turn on debug cam in Warhammer 3, but it's you just go into the game settings, game file, and then like switch like a 1 to a 2 or something in one of the settings.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna do that right now. No, okay. Sorry, I just got a text.
Oh, and also like watching streams, watching players that are better than you, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, so, any channels you guys want to promote for, something like that? Obviously, you could do, the WarGod, if you want to have tried that.
I only did new player guides, but
No. Fair enough.
well, the reason why I said my take is controversial, I say, in my opinion, playing against better players will get you better faster than playing against people at your skill level. If you're punching up, you'll get better faster, because that's how it worked for me, and I find that will probably work for other people as well. Because if you're playing against a good player, you'll see what they do good and what beats you, and it's a lot easier to be like, I want to replicate that, than it is to be like, man, I almost won that battle, but you don't know. You almost won it, but you didn't learn anything. Maybe I don't know. I just find that
I
fighting
agree
better
with that,
players
because
better.
there's some levels to that, and the level is, okay, there's list building, that's one level to it. If you play better player, you're obviously going to get better in that way. If you play someone on the same level who doesn't know what they're doing, and you see they're making some weird builds, you're like, well, I don't know how I lost this, because this doesn't make sense. Versus someone who's better and is like, okay, they totally shit on me because X, Y, and Z. Harrison, you were saying something?
Yeah, I think that is beneficial, but I think if you're brand new to like the RTS genre, or just like the game in general, like you've never played Warhammer, you probably want just to get like a feel for the game and like the mechanics and all the buttons and whatnot, you probably want to be playing newer or not super high level players, because if you're just getting stomped like right out the gates, you're probably not. You might be learning a bit like build wise, but game mechanic wise and just getting a feeling for the game, you're probably not learning much. But yeah, once you get comfortable with the controls and you know uh, feel good about your mechanics, then yeah, you definitely want to be playing players that are better than you to learn from them, both build wise, strategy wise, and just game planning or macro and micro decisions.
So, to sum up what you're saying, it's basically understand the fundamentals so you can actually learn why you're losing to a better player.
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention this, but saving replays can be beneficial. So you can, go back over them, see what you did well, see what you might need to improve on.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I started the channel, you guys were giving me plenty of advice, and then everybody started coming in and playing against me. I was like, man, my micro was so bad, my execution was shit, my build was kind of meh. And then when I played you guys, and after learning, now I'm playing all these new guys, and I'm like, wow, this was me like a year or two ago. I'm just like stomping out. So yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. SkarBrand, do you have anything you want to add to that, or are you just in agreement again?
Most of the time I'm in agreement. I have no idea what to say here. All things were said.
All things were said. Okay.
Yep.
I think people are too scared to get stumped. I think, for me personally, I think that is literally the best strategy to learn. Obviously, you need to know like your basic fundamentals, but I think past that, because if you play a good person, it's kind of like a cheat code. It's like If this guy takes a super tryhard sweaty Sinesh build into me, now I know a super sweaty tryhard Sinesh build, and I know how he played it.
That's true.
I'm just saying that's how I got so good so fast, and I don't know, maybe that's more unique to me, but for me personally, I find that to be the best way to improve.
I have sort of the same experience here. Before I was a top player with Korn, I used to learn from a player known as Berserk, which is right now known as like top one Korn main at the moment. Overall, Berserk is a very strong player, I would say. And that was my teacher when I started playing Korn.
I also played against Berserk, funny enough. He didn't necessarily like teach me or coach me, but I just played against him enough to where like I understood his mechanics and I got better like pretty much immediately after playing him. I got significantly better.
Exactly.
Okay, and this might get a little controversial here. This might be our last point since we're hitting, well, an hour. I remember an argument we had before when it came to land battle and Dom, because these styles are so different. And I believe this was brought up by you, WarGod, formerly known as Pigman, and that the problem with you had with Dom, I believe, was that the better the infantry were in for a faction, they were more likely gonna win. I believe that was the case.
I mean, that was the case back then, but I'm sure the Dom meta has changed. But at that time, I don't know if it's still the same. Like I said, I have no clue about
It's
Dom, but
relatively the same, but ever since a few monster SEs got changed, now you have, instead of being like, okay, let me span 15 models of the same models, right? Infantry models. Now it's more of, okay, now it's 10 to 13 with this SE in here to cost tier to get rid of chaff and maybe bully a lord and then clean up chaff as well. Some
I'd
factions
say
can
the
do that.
meta for Doms mostly go wide, chaff centric.
Still,
I feel like it's very wide, chaff centric, and then cavalry is where a lot of the money's spent.
on reserves, yeah. I'm still feeling that. As an orc main, that's like our go-to, just 17 units in the front, and then a shit ton of cav in reserve to come clean up.
Yeah, expensive infantry can be good, but it's just they're often countered so hard by spells, and there's a lot of the time not much benefit to bringing them. You don't see that super often. Like they don't have more capture weight. They're often pretty slow, and they can't get the fights they really want.
Yeah.
And they're a target for breath attacks, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of I kind of don't want to like go back into like the toxic part, but I guess some problems we have in our own scenes with Dom being those things, like and I think we also touched on that with like hiding in corners with land battle / conquest. I guess what changes would you guys like to see in those scenes? We can start with whoever wants to jump in. Yeah.
I guess for like we just talked about elite infantry, I think they should have maybe one, possibly two more capture weight than their counterparts. So I think regular infantry has five. So maybe, start out with six, and if that's not enough, go to seven. Um, but yeah, I think that might be enough to make them a little bit more viable. A lot of the elite infantry just needs a bit more balancing or cost reductions, I think, as well, stats wise, and then also gold wise.
Yeah, because the elite infantry, I think the gold standard for me would always be somewhere around 1,000 value, somewhere 1,900 in that take.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
1,000 plus, I think.
yeah, where Norscan champions, Marauder champions, those for me are like I think would be a standard 9 to 1,000, perfect. They do what they need to do. They can last a bit long. Yes, they can get deleted, but losing 900 isn't as bad as losing, obviously, 1,200 or more.
Yeah, yeah, you just got to be careful with that though. So people don't try to like max out an elite infantry if they're cheap enough.
Yeah, because obviously you don't have enough spells, and especially if they're halberd units, cav can't get to them, and not every artillery piece can deal with them too. I mean, elite infantry. Elite infantry have a lot of counters, yeah. Jeez. So, I don't know, maybe. Definitely not be spammed, but I don't know how many factions could really spam too many of them. But then you gotta think, yeah, with healing 2 into account. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
it's a really fine line to walk. It's difficult. No.
I have no idea about the capture of like the elite units in
Well,
domination.
I think you would like to
Don't
have
know how
men at
they.
arms get buffed in terms of capture weight. I think that was our take.
Yeah. That case, yes. Okay, yeah. Those my cheap infantry was not well cheap. Overall, my infantry was not capable of outcapture a skirmish calf. Like that was so diabolical to see. I was
No,
like,
your
what?
cheap
How?
infantry, which were 450, the same as dwarf warriors, did not have the same capture weight as dwarf warriors.
Oh wait. Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, another thing that I would like to see is a buff of overall chosen. I know that chosen are meant to be like the force of their respective chaos god, but recently I feel like they're not. They're just a super heavy tanky meat shield, while they're supposed to be like super destructive force of their god. Corn, like chosen of corn. Yes, they kill in melee combat effectively, but whenever there's like something big, something's like I don't know, let's say trolls or something that does effectively into infantry, they just like don't do well. Which is what I would like to see. Where elite infantry, like said in lore, where they're supposed to be the unstoppable force, should do way better than they do now. Like, how are my chosen of corn, like the elitist infantry of my entire roster, capable of terror routing from a giant?
That sounds more
And
nitpicky. I don't know.
Can I add one more thing really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I also kind of wish CA handled the God Gores a little bit differently instead of because like Pestigores and let's say what's another recent one, like Zinch or Zangors, they're just kind of an extension of what the faction is already good at. I feel like they missed an opportunity to give Nurgle the halberd variant and give Corn maybe like spears, give Zinch dual weapons, and give Slanesh probably like the gray weapons because I feel like each monogod faction is just stuck into like such a niche. Like Nurgle's the AP faction. Corn, I guess Corn's more, you have options. Slanesh is more like the shielded, uh, sometimes AP faction, and then Zinch is just the shielded faction. Whereas they could have been a lot more diverse, and made less polarizing in certain matchups if the God Gores had been given different weapon types.
Yeah, Zangors definitely feel awkward when you already have like Marauders who are shielded, not silver shielded, but still shielded.
Yeah, yeah. Just like, what's the point? Like, I
I
don't know.
mean, giving them Vanguard, yeah, I could see what you mean. Like, if the Zangors were actually I could see them actually being the AP armor piercing that Zeech needed to deal with certain
Right,
infantry.
right, and
Well,
like
Zinch
Nurgle
doesn't have any
sorely needs
anti-infantry.
anti-large.
Hold on, what were you saying, Wargod?
Zinch doesn't have any anti-infantry. Like that's like give them a dual weapon. Don't give a halberd faction more halberds. Like Corn, they gave them a halberd, but they already had a halberd. Didn't make sense. Nurgle, they gave them a great weapon when they already had great weapons. Zangors,
Exactly.
they had sword and shield. They just didn't need it. They needed an anti-infantry.
Okay, so yeah, we needed more holes to plug in. Yeah, because, yeah, I guess so. And probably gonna, yeah, they're probably gonna fuck it up with Slanesh too. Probably give them more shield. Probably, if they gave
Yeah,
them a shielded one,
if
that
they
would be
have
so
whips and
dumb.
shields, it's cooked. If they have whips and shields, it's cooked. It's.
I
I
bet they'll
hope they
give
have
them.
javelins. I think that's what everybody really wants to see is like javelins, so that Slanesh has more range.
I agree that's what they're hoping for and what they should get, but I think the talk is they're gonna get dual weapons.
Yeah, with
That's
the
what.
double claws. which like is just a demonette. I guess they're not
Yeah, why would
anti-infantry,
they?
but
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
that's so lame.
Yeah, I don't know. They're really cooked on that point. All right. SkarBrand, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No.
No,
So
he
far,
loves his corn gores.
truly, I don't know. I don't feel like that card guards are super great or super like OP. They are fine by me. I don't think that they needed the nerfs. Yes, I know in domination that they're OP. I guess, but in land battles they don't feel quite good. They feel mediocre because
I
always what
would.
happens is that they will tear out when they have their unbreakable on.
Okay, so in Warhammer, like tabletop, the reason things get nerfed typically is if you max them out. Normally, whenever I see Korngor builds, and this is including you as well, I've seen you send me replays. You sent me like 3 of them recently, and you usually max out Korngors, like 4 or 5 of them. I'm like, I don't think you even needed this many, but you did anyways. Which kind of tells me that, okay, these things are pretty damn good on that end. Like, they're just so cost effective and do exactly what they need to do. Especially the Unbreakable is just so damn good when you can knock it out. That's me being devil's advocate. I kind of want to
In
agree with
domination,
you that they're not, on your points, because if you do tear route them, they don't trigger, and you can just send them off the board, because they're easy to just burn off. But they just get so much for how much they are.
yeah, in domination that's why I like them. They have Vanguard. They are fast. They're mobile. And they are anti-large. They are your cheapest anti-large option. That's why I like them to bring a lot of domination matches, because then I would have to bring Warriors of Chaos with Hellbeards. But the issue with Hellbeards is that they're slow, and speed matters for Khorne.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No. Dom is all about triple capping early and then holding those points for as long as possible, hoping your opponent can't gain that momentum back.
Recently, it's been a lot about value trading. Not gonna lie, it's been about like value trading, tabling your opponent's army, and then getting all the points. So it's basically land battle with extra steps.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. Certain factions, yes. Others, not so
Yeah, I,
much.
I guess not completely, but certain factions, yeah.
Yeah, because Beastmen, that's literally just Beastman style. Is just hold all 3 points and then push them. And just keep throwing Vanguard. Beastmen are just a pain in the
Yeah,
ass to deal with.
yeah. Senegor nerf. I don't know if that's enough, but we'll see.
Probably not. It's just the fact that you can have your damn near your whole army on Vanguard, capture all 3 points, and then, cool, deal with it. And most can't.
Yep.
All right then. So yeah, I think, does anyone else have anything else they want to add? We could do promotions. Any shout-outs you guys want to do?
One thing I'd like to add that
Okay.
this has always been tossed around for the longest time. They really, in an ideal world, perfect society, really the balance of Dom and land battle should be separated because they're just such a different game. Nobody is ever going to be happy. That's why some stuff I see it and I'm like, wow, that really sucks. But I can understand, and it's like I have to make concessions to Dom because they are a part of the community, right? We're all here together, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but it just sucks. It's like really, they should be separated. Like they're just so different. They
Oop.
can't be balanced together really properly. Like ever. And always somebody is going to be unhappy.
I agree. Yep. They
Yes.
should have Dom stats and then, maybe even campaign stats and land battle stats.
Well, they already do kind of have campaign stats with like there's if you notice in the patch notes sometimes there's multiplayer price and single player price. So they
Yes.
do have that
Oh, true,
little.
true.
So they could do that
And I
with
guess,
price.
campaign and land battle are kind of, uh, yeah, I can't think of the word, but they're symbiotic in a way.
Yeah, because obviously because there's no dom in campaign.
So how do we? So price point is just the best way to fix it, I guess, because you
No, I
can't.
think they should just have literally
Do
separate like
stats.
stats. Like Korngors and Domination should be nerfed, and then they should be kept the same. I know this will never happen though. That's why it's kind of a moot point. It's just something that just won't happen. It just won't. But that's really would be the way to just fix it.
I think the only reason it wouldn't happen is because it would be just so much more work for CA, and they're like, you know what, fuck that.
It's so much more work
Yep.
for such a small percentage of the community. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of on
I
their
don't
fault. They fumbled that ball.
yeah.
I don't know about land battle, but outside of maybe like Slanesh, Ogres, and Beastmen, when those three factions were banned, the gameplay was actually in a pretty healthy state. Um, Outside those three factions, it was not a bad patch, I think, or not a bad wipe or
Land
whatever.
battle's actually been pretty balanced the last few patches. The only things that are really egregious are like the Seekers, Ogres, and Dwarves. Everything else has been relatively balanced for land
Dwarves,
battles.
I
It's
thought
actually
dwarves were
been
straight up
pretty
banned in
good.
most, if not all.
Nah, not land battles at all. Dwarves are no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's
aren't they
kind of
considered like
how
S tier in land and conquest?
They are, but ogres are better in my
Really?
opinion.
Holy shit!
Me Feast it goes crazy. Me Feast is
yeah,
insane.
Ogre's just such a busted
There's
faction.
no faction
Yep.
that's flat out banned right now because the game state is actually pretty good for land battles. It's just really ogres. Ogres are like I feel like I can deal with dwarves a lot more than I can deal with ogres because you kill a stonehorn, it's at like 10% HP. One meat feast, that brother is back to full HP, and you're just like, what was even all that for? And then you lose the game, and that's like so frustrating because you feel like you're playing like they're playing on literal easy mode and you're playing on a
Well,
harder
this goes
difficulty.
back to everyone's point of just like, how do we deal with SCs with healing? This is our biggest problem in all the
Well,
metas. It's
no,
just,
the ogres is very clear. They added this stinky. They changed the army abilities for no. Ogres is clear. They changed the army abilities for like no reason. They're like, guys, I have a good idea. Let's
well,
change the
I'm
army
also thinking
abilities
too of
and give them free regrowth.
past nerfs to say regrowth, past nerfs to Kairos because he had regrowth, the nerf to the Vortex Beast because it was just busted because of regrowth, and then like we're talking healing in general here still being as bad as it was, and we're talking a Zeech
No,
monster as
I don't
well.
think it is as bad. Not nearly. I think
Yeah,
just
it's
for
not as bad.
specific factions like ogres, it's that bad because they get a free regrowth. It's so ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
well, in that context, yeah, I can see that. Okay, okay.
I
Like
think you
high elves.
just
Okay, high elves is a great. Sorry, I'm going,
No, no,
but
no,
this is a
no. This
great
is
point
actually
here.
good. This is good. We get this out.
High elves are another example of a faction with tons of healing. You take Larry, she has Star of Avalorn, and she has her Earthblood, but it feels so much. She probably actually has more healing than ogres if you were to add it all up, like over the whole army. But it feels much more manageable because you can snipe a Lario. It's one target. It's not like a free ability. You have to pay one for it, and you can see the Star of Avalorn. You can kind of pull people out of it. You can kind of, if they try to blob on there, you can punish them. Ogres don't have that. Meat Feast you can cast anywhere, and the Ogre Lord is super easy to protect and it has a super high cast range. You pop it one time, run away with your Lord, that guy's back up to full HP, and your Lord's safe.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like healing overall feels relatively fine to me. Just for certain factions and playstyles, it's ridiculous.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. No, I can agree with that. Just hit the problems on the head. Okay. Harrison, did you have something to add to that, or were you just?
oh, and not to mention they also have troll guts. Like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Troll Guts is busted good.
I mean, isn't the fleshy abundance better? Sort of.
Mm,
Yeah, and they nerfed it for
They
no
nerfed
reason.
Fleshy though. That's the thing, but they didn't nerf Troll Guts again. They previously did, but it probably needs another nerf.
Oh yeah. I
I
think
think
just
they could
decrease
also just
mana.
maybe lower the healing cap for some like certain units possibly. Could or
Or
help with
add
the issue.
overall problem.
I think
Yeah,
actually that would be interesting to see healing cap for SEs and certain SEs especially getting a earlier healing cap.
you could do it like percentage wise based on their health, something like that, and just make it a lot lower if they have a giant health pool.
Yeah, especially something like the Shredder Illustria. That oh my god.
Oh, especially that one.
Yeah, because I remember playing against you with Nurgle and just trying to even with Angels of the K, I couldn't bring that monster down. God,
Oh yeah, I remember that one too.
that was just awful. That felt oh man. You want to talk about cancer, man? Nurgle got cancer from that. Man. Cheeky
Yeah.
bastard.
It's funny that Nurgle's like is the one faction that should have like an OP healing SE, but it just doesn't. Toad Dragons suck. Great Unclean Ones suck. So they're not really a problem.
Yeah, everyone was hoping Toad Dragons would get there, but no, they just can't.
I've
Toad
tested them
dragons
in the
need
past,
passive
they
healing so bad.
I would even say regeneration. I would say something more like Gore Feast.
That's what I mean. Or yeah.
Because I think
Or
regeneration
just
would actually hurt
just
it.
like regen, like a bile troll, something like that would be nice.
Yeah, and probably isn't it like 8,000 HP? Yeah, let me
Toad
check.
Dragon?
The toad dragon, I think the toad dragon has like
No, it's like
13k,
almost 10,000.
12k.
That's good HP.
I was about to
Yeah,
say.
it just so slow and such a
I think it
massive
needs like an
target.
ability like a vortex or something. It feels like just like a bad Jabber's Life. It's like, hey, do you want a Jabber's Life that's just worse?
Oh,
Here's the
damn.
Well,
Toad Dragon.
its barf ability also takes like 10 seconds to proc, and if anything like just touches it, it stops. It's so annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it is pretty poopy. But the HP pool is the only thing saving it.
How much does it have? Is it
1,100.
12K?
Well, basically
Okay.
1,200. Yeah, 12,000. My bad. Yeah, it just looks good on paper, and then in practice, it's pretty dog shit.
I think it's because it's on the Nurgle roster, though. I honestly think you give Toad Dragon to like an Empire faction, and it would be pretty good. But because it's on Nurgle, where you're already building around like a blob, it gets shot up so easily because it's like a huge target.
Yeah, and there's not too many great ways to support it. Like, what could you do, really, besides just
Exactly.
healing it? Yeah.
I think the Toad
Exactly.
Dragon would be a great addition for Warriors of Chaos, probably. No?
Yeah, it would. Literally, I think you add it to other rosters is good, but on the Nurgle roster, which is so limited, I don't know how they save Nurgle, to be honest. They're cooked, because they're not getting enough DLC, probably. Nurgle's cooked. I'm sorry, Nurgle mans. So, yeah.
No, Nurgle's good in Dom. I swear. No, they're actually not even very good in Dom.
No, they're on the like bottom 5.
But they were good because they had good infantry for a little bit.
What they've been talking about, at least in like the Nurgle forums, is changing Cloud of Flies. So outside of melee, you have 15% missile resist, and then in melee that goes away and changes to the melee defense.
That would be
I think
cool.
that'd be a welcome change.
I like that.
I would
that's
actually
cool.
like Curse of the Slug become a spell, because man, how nice would it be to slow down a reinforcing unit or a SC and finally finish it off for Nurgle? God.
Agree. They should replace that one melee debuff one. The debuff melee and charge bonus, they should change that with the slow. That'd be
Miasma
cool.
Pestilence, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
God.
Also, wasn't it mentioned that Nurgle may be getting in future like another DLC?
I
Since-
doubt it.
I think
There
all
is
the mono gods will
Blockkin,
get.
which is like a pretty popular character.
Yeah, they'll get like the
I
Blight
don't
Kings.
know.
Yeah,
think
exactly.
I think they'll get end times DLC for all mono gods.
Yeah, because if
eventually.
Wrathmongers are with Khorne, there's no
Yeah.
doubt, like, you could even do
Yes.
the Glotkin for Nurgle at that point.
Yeah, the Glockkin is there. If it's the next DLC, if it's gonna happen, is gonna be Glockkin and Blight Kings. That's like guaranteed. Not really
God.
another Nurgle character.
That's what I wanted to say. Since Korn got end times units, and they already said that with Korn we are officially making all the DLC end times. Nurgle is most likely gonna get another DLC that will most likely be focused on end times.
I think it'll only happen if this game lasts that long. And judging by the rate of patches
Oh,
so
yeah.
far, it's not going so great.
Yeah, if they announce,
Yeah.
like, the 40k, I pretty much, this game gets cooked.
This
Oh
game-
yeah, but that they know that though. They're not gonna announce 40k until it's like done. But that's not for a while.
unless 40k is gonna be like trash.
No,
If
there's
it's
no way.
trash,
They
sure.
there's
Even if
no
it's
way they
trash,
could fuck
people will
that up.
play it.
If they fuck, that is like the cash cow. That would be
Nerd, they already fucked up Warhammer 3.
Yeah, Warhammer 3 was also the cash cow.
No, it's not
No.
the same. You're not. It's not the same.
I
Old
think you
World
forget
versus
how hyped
40k is
Warhammer 3 was on
completely
release.
different.
It's like a nuclear bomb versus a coughing baby.
You're talking about the Tsar bomb versus like.
Oh
But
my
no,
God.
seriously, 40k is literally the highest selling in terms of tabletop, just pretty much everything, really. God, they're just so
Wow.
hot right now, and especially if they, oh man, especially after Space Marine 2 as well. Man.
I agree. But Warhammer 3 was massive before it released. That was the biggest the Warhammer community has ever been, was right before Warhammer 3 released. Like it was big. It was like #1 on Steam wishlist. Like it was pretty big. Steam 40K will obviously be bigger. But Warhammer 3 before it actually released was like massive. Like it was mainstream. And that's really the only time I ever saw Warhammer mainstream. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you there.
It's like right before release, the trailer was sick. All the new factions looked sick. It was pretty. And once we got it, it was dookie. But before that, it was like, whoa.
No, I agree with you with that. My argument was just in terms of old world versus 40K in popularity. 40K
Oh yeah,
is
no doubt, no doubt.
no, no, but I agree with you with that. But yeah,
But I'm
if
just
they
saying, like,
do,
it's the same scale. Like Warhammer 3 was a big game. It's not like they were half-assing it, and
well,
they're
that's
obviously
why
not
the
half-assing 40K.
that's why
either.
people are like, I hope CA is not the one to run this because if they do, they don't want what happened to 3.
Agree,
Yeah.
agree, bro. CA is such a bad company when it comes to managing Warhammer IP. It's insane. Like I don't know, massive fumble just every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know what they would have to do. I mean, they'd have to do like a DLC every 3 months if they want to keep up with anything, really.
Exactly, which they should be doing. If I was in, I would be like, let's get on it. Because what does Overwatch do? Let's go back to that and we'll be brief about it. But Overwatch always new content. They just released a new hero, and that's
I'm
free,
sure. I'm
right?
sure they'll have
So
a much larger studio working on 40K. This is like a very small studio right now, pushing
Yeah.
out content.
no, but
Yeah.
I'm saying at the start of, I'm comparing it to the start of Warhammer 3 because at the start of Warhammer 3, like before release, that was CA put everything in it. Like they were not half-assing it, and I think they're working
And
the
this is when
same
they were
effort.
much bigger too.
Yeah, like this was like the full like this is not the modern like two people working on shit. This is like the full like Sega pumping in tons of money and Warhammer 3 still fumble. That's why I'm cautious about 40K.
That's a very fair take on that. God, I don't want to leave everyone on a sad note.
I wouldn't say it's a sad note. I say it's more an interesting note. I think
But,
40K, even if it's bad at the start, like Warhammer 3, it will be saved by later on stuff. But you know,
I just don't think Games Workshop. Well, maybe I don't know. It really depends on how Games Workshop kind of sees. There's like it really is up to them at the end.
Games Workshop has not done a good job at managing the games. There's been a lot of
Well,
bad
they
40K
can't really do
games.
that. They're just saying, okay, we won't allow certain things in the game. That's really it. You guys work on it. That's all it really is.
I hope they stop doing that because I think that limited a lot of the stuff in that could have been in fantasy. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's why Zangors don't have beaks because they're
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because I couldn't imagine. Because lore is cool, but I care more about my gameplay than the lore.
I mean that's what keeps people coming.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all right. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add?
No, I just hope that
Oh, you
Warhammer 40K.
you mentioned that. Did you guys already share your funny stories?
No. Sorry.
Oh.
You got a good one?
I mean, I don't know if it's that funny, but I remember like a year ago, probably, I was in a tournament and I was beating this guy so badly. I had to poop so freaking bad during the game. I was just like, okay, if I just sit everybody on the points, I'll probably just win the game if I go to the bathroom right now and just don't finish it. So I went to the bathroom mid-game, look, just took a dookie, came back, and I still won. It's pretty epic.
That guy right now is probably pissed off. God. Okay.
Dude, he was probably fighting his ass off trying to get back in the
It's
game.
like this guy. What is he doing? This is insane.
I
He's
actually
just
have
standing there menacingly.
What were you saying,
I actually
Morgan?
I actually have a similar story. So I was once playing against this guy, and I had beaten him like completely. Like he had no units left, but he had the Grand Cathay ranged unit guy. He had two of them, and they have like an infinite ability, the Nan Go crossbow or whatever. We can cast it. But I had like dominated his whole army. I had like such a massive force, but he wasn't conceding, and he was playing it out. So I just left my computer and started watching YouTube for like an hour, and he was still trying to chop down my army because he literally had nothing. Like he's just sitting there like poking away at this huge wood elf army with Durthu and forest dragons with like these two guys with crossbows. Like he was never gonna win, but I couldn't catch him. because he killed all my mobility, and I just had a bunch of trees and infantry.
So you just
But
let
he's
himself tire out.
Yeah, I literally, it was such a. I just watched YouTube, and I just wasn't even playing the game.
Oh, see, that's why I at least like Dom, because I don't have to deal with that shit. Oh man, it's just leave him on the point, take a shit. All right, it's over. Cool. God, that's annoying. What about you, SkarBrand?
My favorite sort of funny story is I had a sort of a sweaty match where I was playing Wars of Chaos against Dowie on land battles. The game ended up to be just Sartuel against 4 entities of Slayers. Just the normal Slayer on it, but only has 4 entities. What happened was that my half HP Sartuel dropped down to 400 HP from 4 Slayers, and I nearly lost the game because of Sartuel locking to freaking hit the Slayers. It was so crazy. I was like, am I going to lose this? What is happening?
God.
Must have been Demon Slayers.
No, normal Slayers. I still have the replay of it.
God. Just to remember it. Oh, poor guy. Alright. Alright. We're coming up 5 minutes to an hour and a half, so I'm going to end it here. Do you guys want to do any shout-outs or anything before we go?
I mean, obviously I have my channel, but that's already been shouted out.
Shout out Nerd War Room. Check them out if you haven't.
Yeah.
I'll dab to that. Hopefully.
Subscribe, like.
Hopefully.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nerd, and to your point earlier, with like the declining numbers of people viewing Warhammer, I noticed that too. I was looking at Turin's like viewer count per video.
Yeah, that's...
It was like 10, 15K higher at this time last year. I was really surprised.
Yeah, every other channel, not as much. I can guarantee you that. His live streams are actually doing better than his videos most of the time, which is kind of funny.
I think that's partially because like he talks about it in the live stream with like whatever's going on with YouTube. They send like sleeping people or like recommend his channel when he's live streaming.
Yeah, and of course you can always watch it after, whereas like his videos, it's like... And that's my thing with the... I'll get off this point and then we'll end it. That's with YouTube in general. I know I'm on it with the live stream, but... Because I'm just saying, this is ironic, but YouTube wants to promote the longer video for the longer, obvious reasons, ads, revenue, all that goodness, versus like a regular video that's like 10 to 15 minutes, and no one's going to have time for 10 to 15 minutes, but they can pick what times and stuff they want to watch for certain videos in a live stream. And of course, that's interactive as well.
I'm trying to get you in as a tournament host, just by the way, but it's like a super task to get turned to respond for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm trying. Trust me, I'm trying.
No, thank you. So yeah, with that, we'll shut up.
It will happen.
Yeah. So let's end it here, unless anyone else has anything want to say before we go. No? Maybe? All right then. We'll end it there then.
Well, thanks for joining, everybody.
Yep. Y'all have